The first time I went to a nightclub after starting college, I encountered my neighbor Jacob Mitchell, who disappeared a year earlier, with two scantily clad beauties draped over his arms like some lowlife. His gaze fleetingly dropped to my chest before he clicked his tongue dismissively. Later, when he pinned me against the wall, thumb pressing my lips as he demanded I say his name, I suddenly realized this wasn't my Jake. I met Jacob at Nightscape, the city's largest entertainment complex where all sorts congregated. My roommate Lily Carter had booked a VIP room for her birthday. Running late, I was about to call for the room number when laughter echoed down the corridor. There he stood at the far end, the face that haunted my dreams and waking hours for 18 years. The boy police presumed dead in the river last year. My childhood friend Jacob Mitchell. I blinked repeatedly, tears threatening to fall. His silhouette had filled 80% of my life's memories. The person I'd secretly loved for years. Now he stood flanked by barely dressed women. A stranger leering at my chest. "Skinny little thing," he drawled when I asked for his number. "Where's the fun in that?" This vulgar caricature bore Jake's face but none of his soul. My Jake had been Warm Jade, the boy who'd smiled indulgently when I'd shyly asked him to pick me up after graduation exams. Snowfall catching in his lashes as fireworks erupted overhead. The gentleman who gently tousled my hair instead of answering, leaving my teenage heart suspended in hopeful silence. Jacob Mitchell. On the day after my college entrance exams. "Will you come pick me up?" The firecrackers were so damn loud. So loud I couldn't hear my own voice. Yet I still caught his words whispered against my ear. Solemn yet tender, yes. He broke that promise. The day I stood drowning in that surging crowd, scanning every direction through numb confusion, when all the noise and chaos crashed over me from every side. He never came. Every hope turned to dust. When I stumbled to his doorstep half-conscious, I found his parents aged a decade overnight. Their bloodshot eyes delivered the news I refused to believe. I still don't. He's just missing. Maybe someday I'll bump into him at a street corner or convenience store. Or he'll reappear claiming he'd been hiding. Jacob's crew left. I never got his number. Lily Carter found me still dazed in the hallway. She shook my shoulders. "Ella? Ella? What's wrong? You didn't answer my calls, the room's right there. Why are you crying?" Her urgent tone shifted to guilt. "The VIP room was too loud. I missed your texts." "Nothing." I lowered my gaze. "I'm fine. Let's get back to your party." The VIP room pulsed with energy. Slumping into a corner, I checked my phone, Lily's room number text. 2 missed calls. And a new message from Mrs. Mitchell. "How's college life, dear? Since Jacob's disappearance, I've stayed close to his parents, almost like their surrogate daughter." My fingers froze above the screen, remembering his careless laugh turning away. The truth stayed buried. "It's great. You and Mr. Mitchell should rest more." The party raged louder. I faked enthusiasm until slipping out to the restroom. The hallway's silence shattered by fabric rustling. A man pinned a woman against the wall. She pushed him off with a breathy giggle. "Someone's here." He chuckled darkly, glancing over his shoulder. "Since when do you—" The words died. Scarlet lipstick smeared his mouth. The same face that had rejected me hours earlier. I stared at that crimson streak, blood draining from my face. His eyes locked on mine, smirk widening as he gripped the woman's wrist. "Let's finish upstairs." The curve-hugging dress on his companion gleamed under harsh lights. When he heard this, Jacob merely glanced at me before responding with a playful laugh. Okay, my entire body turned cold. I could only watch their retreating figures growing smaller in the distance. My feet weighted as if filled with lead. They vanished around the corner. This wasn't right. My Jacob used to be gentle, all gentle smiles and soft murmurs of Ella whenever we met. As children, I'd call him brother. Every afternoon, he'd wait at the school gates with his backpack. And I'd shout brother, before proudly telling my teacher, My brother's here. Goodbye, teacher. During my rebellious teens, I took to using his full name. Jacob. Don't tell my mom. Jacob. I messed up. Jacob. What do I do? Never irritated. He'd simply pat my head and clean up every mess I made. Jacob. I once asked, will you always protect me? Always. The teenage boy in his white button-down stood tall, shirt fluttering in the breeze as I secretly gripped the fabric. Though I couldn't see his face from my bicycle seat, his voice carried clear conviction. I'm Ella's brother. Of course I'll protect Ella forever. I pouted, clinging tighter to his waist. Then pedal steadier. The road stretched smooth before us. His shoulders stiffened momentarily before rumbling laughter escaped him. Okay. Later, when first love blossomed, I grew my hair long and wore pretty dresses, calling him Jake. By then he'd left for college, returning rarely, broad-shouldered and towering. His cold demeanor melted whenever our eyes met. For years, my heart raced at his smile. During senior year, midnight study sessions found me staring at the moon, clinging to one thought: survive these exams, earn top marks, then stand before him and confess decade-old secrets. This determination fueled me through endless practice tests. But the man I saw today bore no resemblance to him. When I finally shook off my days to follow, they'd disappeared. I refused to give up. I needed to see him again, amnesia or act. It didn't matter. The Mitchell family deserved to know their son still lived. Having failed to get his contact, I resorted to haunting Nightfall Bar. Tonight I found him smoking with rough-looking men. My courage faltered. The Jacob I knew never surrounded himself with such company. But the man from last time noticed. He suddenly grinned and gestured toward Jacob to look at me. Jacob turned his head, glancing at me coldly. Then, that woman appeared again. His expression instantly shifted as he curved his lips into a faint smile, wrapping his arm around her waist to pull her close. She nestled obediently against his chest while I stood in the corner, watching their group laugh and enter the private room. In that split second, I caught the threatening glance she threw over her shoulder, venomous as a poisoned rose. Cold sweat soaked through my shirt as I leaned against the wall gasping. Only after splashing water on my face in the restroom did I regain some semblance of clarity. He wasn't Jacob. Yet he was Jacob. Jacob had been the sun, always warm, always radiant. But the chasm of his absence these past years had shattered everything. The restroom door swung open. Reflected in the mirror behind me was a stunning face framed by cascading curls. Her heavy makeup resembled a gaudy mask. Sophia raised an eyebrow. You? Surprise flickered across her features before she took several steps forward in towering heels, peering down at me contemptuously. Stay away from him. Her gaze lingered on my chest with the same disdain Jacob had shown. You really think Jake would want trash like you? Her smirk dripped with mockery. But I zeroed in on that name. Reality and delusion collided as I choked out. What did you call him? He's Jake, my voice broke. Who is he? Tell me. Is he Jacob Mitchell? She shoved me hard. My tailbone slammed against the tile with a sickening crack. Sophia loomed over me, reeking of cloying perfume and rot. You don't even know his name. Sweetie. Keep clinging to him and you'll disappear. Permanently. The door burst open. Jake stood panting in the doorway. When his eyes landed on me crumpled on the floor, his irritated expression turned glacial. In a split second, Jacob pulled Sophia's waist closer, pulled out a wad of cash, and deftly tucked it into her bra with a suggestive smile. Not needing you tonight. I'm craving something new. I saw her face pale instantly. As I opened my mouth to protest, don't, Jacob turned around and snarled. Get lost. Sophia choked back her words, glancing at me over her shoulder. Backlit. I couldn't decipher her expression. She swiftly removed her high heels, clutching them as she hurried away. The room emptied until only we remained. Jacob bent down, yanking me off the floor into his embrace. My face collided with his chest before being pinned against the wall. Cold marble seeped through my dress as restless fingers toyed with my collar button. The bathroom's dim lighting hummed with tension. Chills crept through my loosened neckline while the icy surface leached warmth from my spine. Dread crawling up my limbs. Tears of primal fear spilled over. The face inches from mine felt both familiar and alien, now marred by a thin scar beneath his eye. It was him. Yet not him. Trembling, I repeated the once beloved address like a prayer. Jake. His hands stilled. A thumb pressed against my lips, tracing them slowly as his hooded eyes glinted. Such a pretty voice. He murmured. But wrong name. Try Jacob. The word sliced through my haze. I shoved him violently, my frantic hands tearing his shirt open. A grotesque scar bloomed across his chest, thick, rope-like tissue flowering beneath his heart. My fingertips brushed raised track marks along his arm. I recoiled as if burned. You're not him. I don't know you. Get away. Figured it out. He lazily caught a tear on his finger. Smile widening. Hot breath ghosted over my neck as cold fingers slipped under my hem. Too late. The door crashed open. A scowling man lowered his kick, freezing when he saw us. God damn it, Jacob. Sophia's looking for you too. Can't keep it in your pants 5 minutes? His glare shifted to me, mid-snarl. His expression flipped to amusement. Not Sophie? Thought you didn't touch virgins. Jacob released me without a glance, buttoning his shirt while trading crude jokes. As they left, he suddenly turned and flung cash at me. Crimson bills fluttered through the air like derisive petals, scattering across the tiles. The bathroom door slammed shut. I collapsed onto the floor. Dirty water soaked through my previously clean clothes. But I didn't care. The moment that broke me felt like hope being snapped and half bleeding out from the fractured stump. Brutal and cruel. Kneeling in the puddle, my trembling hands scrambled to retrieve the sodden dollar bills as I kept muttering. He's not Jacob Mitchell. He's not Jacob Mitchell. Like some broken incantation, the scattered money slipped through my fingers again. My Jacob had disappeared a year ago. Probably gone forever. I stopped working at nightfall and returned to college, mechanically going through freshman routines while staring at distant moons. But life had other plans. Lily Carter and our roommates were trying on clothes at the mall when my phone buzzed with a bubble tea order notification. The sharp click of high heels made me glance up instinctively. Sophia Baker stood there clutching shopping bags. Her crimson lips curled when our eyes met. You look terrible, sweetheart. She sneered. Finally came to your senses? I stared blankly. Her palm whipped toward my face but stopped mid-swing. Enraged, she yanked my hair hard enough to make tears spring up. Come with me, she hissed, dragging me into a restroom. The door closed on curious stares. My skull cracked against the tiles as her slap connected, this time sharp pain exploding across my cheekbone. My phone kept ringing on the sink counter while strangers pretended not to notice. When Sophia left, the mirror showed a drowned rat, hair dripping, eyes bloodshot. The 20th ringtone finally pierced through my daze. Ella, where are you? Lily's panicked voice demanded. We've been searching everywhere. My voice came out hoarse and barely recognizable. The second floor, restroom. When Lily and the others rushed over, they were startled to find me drenched. The 3 girls surrounded me as Lily pulled out tissues to wipe the water dripping down my face. Ella, what happened? My roommate asked gently. I couldn't speak. The words tangled in my throat like heavy yarn, sealing my vocal cords and choking my voice. I simply collapsed into Lily's arms. The girl's embrace was soft and warm as she held me close, patting my back. It's okay, Ella. You're safe now. At 10 years old, I'd been cornered by older students and shoved to the ground. Their leader hurled obscenities at me. When I saw Jacob after school, The floodgates burst open, clutching his shirt sleeve on the sidewalk. I sobbed uncontrollably yet couldn't form a single coherent sentence. Jacob had no choice but to kneel and embrace me, murmuring reassurance, "It's all right, Ella. Big brother's here." The sidewalk was crowded with people, but I'd found my safe harbor. Now Jacob was gone. The disruption Sophia brought had been like ripples on a lake. The surface calm restored quickly, but beneath the water, turbulent currents still swirled. Over a month passed peacefully until our weekend club gathering at a remote barbecue spot. Amidst the clinking glasses, our red-faced club president drunkenly grabbed a water bottle as a makeshift microphone. I quietly watched the chaos while mechanically downing drink after drink. My cheeks burned crimson before friends exclaimed, "Ella, you're flushed." Only then did I realize how much I'd consumed. My body moved before my fogged mind could react. Stumbling to my feet, I declared, "Need air." Friends grabbed my arm. "Want company?" "No." I shook my head, earlobes burning. "I'll sober up quick." The chilly night wind slapped my face, clearing some haze. A sneeze brought sharper awareness. Late autumn. Jacob's birthday approached. I'd never been drunk before. Never understood this floating sensation. But I'd seen Jacob drunk once at his lavish 18th birthday celebration. A crowd of classmates arrived. I didn't recognize anyone and felt shy, standing on my balcony while secretly peeking into Jacob's backyard. Unexpectedly, near the end of the gathering, I witnessed a pretty girl pull him aside. Her face flushed as she confessed. Her bold words made my cheeks burn, and I immediately ducked below the balcony railing. My heart pounded like a drum, chest tight with bitterness and unnamed emotions. Panicked yet paralyzed, I listened as the laughter downstairs dwindled into silence. Then I heard Jacob call, "Ella." I jerked upright, locking eyes with the Pine Street boy below. Moonlight illuminated his starry gaze. Jacob's usual composure had cracked, his smile playful. Fair skin tinged pink as he beckoned, "Come down." I sprinted downstairs without thinking. He stood bathed in silver light, arms suddenly opening to pull me into an embrace. The scent of alcohol enveloped us as my cheek pressed against his thundering heartbeat. I couldn't tell whose pulse raced louder. "Ella." Guess what I wished for? No idea. His arms loosened. I looked up to find Jacob wearing a mischievous smile, that gentle honor student momentarily replaced by a trickster. Not telling. I pretended to pout. He laughed, ruffling my hair like he'd done countless times when comforting me. If only I'd been smarter then. But Jacob had sheltered me too well. I failed to decipher the shadows behind his smile that night. After cooling my flushed face outside, I tucked my phone into my pocket and turned to rejoin my friends. 2 steps later, 3 men blocked my path. The blonde one with a facial piercing leaned on his friend, cigarette dangling as he leered. Their stench of smoke and liquor turned my stomach. "Hey cutie, want a drink with us?" "Sorry. My friends are waiting." Clutching my phone, I tried sidestepping them. Another man sneered, blocking my escape. "We just want to be friends." "Pretty girl. Got a boyfriend?" The blonde crushed his cigarette, crowding closer until my back hit the wall. They exchanged grins, advancing as I pressed the emergency button in my pocket. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They moved closer. I pressed the 4th button, my pulse racing. The sudden crunch of impact against flesh froze me. Thugs' curses mingled with bodies hitting concrete as I dropped my phone. A dark figure materialized from nowhere, taking down 3 attackers with brutal efficiency. Within 2 minutes, all lay motionless, the blonde one face down in the dirt, likely unconscious. The abrupt silence pulsed louder than the fight. Only wind whistled through the alley now. He stood motionless, baseball cap shadowing his face. Moonlight offered no help, streetlights casting jaundiced pools around us. 1 meter apart, Yet galaxies separated us. I memorized every angle of his stance. Terrified he'd dissolve like smoke. Countless rehearsed scenarios crumbled the tearful embrace. The shouted accusations. The desperate questions about his disappearance. My lips stung where teeth met flesh, trapping unshed tears. The cap landed on my head without warning, rough fingers yanking the brim over my eyes. I stared at asphalt patterns, hearing echoes from years past middle school bullies. Jacob's uncharacteristic rage. That same gesture of shielding me from violence. "Let's go, Ella." His voice held no trace of the boy who'd once comforted me with patched knees and lemonade. The hand gripping mine felt foreign, calloused where memory insisted on softness. I walked blind, choking on everything left unsaid. I didn't ask anything, just tightened my grip on his hand. In that moment, I truly believed Jacob would protect me forever. The shrill honk of a car horn pierced the air. The wind roared so loudly in my ears that I almost convinced myself those whispered words, "Take care of yourself," were just my imagination. Miss. A hand patted my shoulder, holding out a police badge. "I'm an officer." I removed my baseball cap. Before me stood a square-jawed man with thick brows and an air of authority. He fell silent when our eyes met. Because beneath that cap, I was already sobbing uncontrollably. I never truly blamed Jacob. I just needed him to survive. I thought I'd never cross paths with Sophia again. I was wrong. For 5 desperate days, I combed through nightclubs until I finally cornered her in a dimly lit room. Sophia lit a cigarette, her striking features dissolving into the haze. "Haven't you learned your lesson yet?" she sneered, though her usual venom faltered when I collapsed to my knees before her. "What are you doing?" She lunged to pull me up, her tough facade slipping. "I'm begging you." Pride meant nothing now. Dignity meant less. "Just let me see him one last time. I swear I'll disappear afterward. Please." Sophia was my final hope. My final chance to see Jacob's face again. I was terrified. I knew Jacob too well. I understood exactly what his words implied. Sophia's eyes reddened. I watched tears glisten at the corners of her eyes before she swiftly wiped them away. Perhaps she saw someone else's reflection in me. Sophia disguised me as a server for the occasion. During a gathering, she sneaked me inside after caking my face with heavy makeup that obscured my features. The stranger in the mirror unnerved me. She gripped my shoulders firmly. "Remember what I told you. Deliver the food and leave immediately. Don't linger. Don't look around." I blended into the waitstaff heading to the 9th floor VIP suite. The lavishly decorated room clashed with its occupants. A poker table erupted with accented curses. Sophia laughed coyly, greeting the man who'd cornered us in the restroom weeks prior. He smirked, squeezing her waist with predatory interest. I lowered my gaze, stomach churning at the mingling stench of cigars and desperation. My target sat at the dining table, eyes half-lidded and unreadable. Waiters arranged platters around him. Trembling, I set down a dish behind his seat. He sensed me instantly, our eyes locked. His blazing with fury. I pressed my lips shut. "Jake." A greasy-faced man slurred, leaning close. "Heard Mr. Mitchell's brokering some big deal? Gonna handle it himself?" Jacob didn't glance up. "He's not Jacob Mitchell," Sophia had warned. "His name's Jake." The drunkard noticed me. His arms snaked around my waist, sending my tray crashing to the floor. Metal glinted, a pistol pressed against his temple. "Filth." Jake's voice dripped venom. "Since when do rats question a Mitchell's movements?" I shivered. The man whimpered, Jake." I didn't." Another thug materialized, offering a baggie of white powder. "Come on, brothers. Let's celebrate." A sickly sweet odor permeated the air. At the poker table, men slumped in their chairs, faces slack with drugged euphoria. Jacob's face darkened. He swung his leg toward me, snarling, "Get the hell out of here. Don't be mad, Jacob." Sophia grabbed my arm. "I'll get this troublemaker out of your hair. You boys should enjoy your reunion without any drama." She smacked the back of my head. I kept my head bowed, murmuring apologies as she dragged me out of the private room. I didn't look back. When the door clicked shut behind us, Sophia released her grip though our hands remained loosely intertwined. We walked past security cameras until reaching a blind spot. Her warmth evaporated as she spun around. "Ella." Her voice turned icy. "You promised. This is the last time." "Thank you." I bowed deeply to her, fingernails digging crescent moons into my palms. Turning away, I whispered to the empty corridor, "Just staying alive is enough. Even if we never meet again." The elevator doors reflected Sophia's suddenly tense expression. I simply lowered my gaze, drifting through the hotel like a ghost. Jacob vanished from my life as abruptly as he'd appeared. My first college semester passed in a blur of dorm rooms, lecture halls, and library carols. Sometimes I'd stare at my phone past midnight, thumb scrolling through empty notifications as if expecting something. Winter break brought heavy snowstorms up north. I shuffled carefully along icy sidewalks with 2 roommates, suitcases rattling behind us. Our taxi driver chuckled at our excitement. "Heading home for the holidays?" "Yep." Lily hugged her phone while texting her parents. "Can't wait to binge on tangerines." The overheated car made me drowsy. I watched snowflakes stick to the window as the driver mused. Good omen this year. Snow promises abundant harvests. The station swarmed with travelers dragging gift-filled luggage. Smiles outshone the frosty weather, everyone chasing that warm glow of homecoming. After farewell hugs, I rushed through security and heaved my suitcase onto the overhead rack. My window seat neighbor rocked a wide-eyed toddler. Her husband leaned over from the row behind. "Need me to take her?" The young mother smiled, bouncing the giggling baby. "See the nice lady? Say hi to big sister." The train lurched forward, carrying us all toward different versions of home. The little girl blinked her big eyes, cooing softly as if genuinely trying to call sister. "Our sweetheart's so clever," the woman exclaimed delightedly, bouncing the infant on her lap. "Remember to call sister when we get home too. Okay?" Ella reached out to poke the baby's cheek. Her tiny fingers immediately closed around Ella's with gurgling laughter. The woman chattered incessantly, revealing they'd left their eldest daughter back in their hometown while working in the city. "We took leave early this year," she said, eyes misting. "Just want to spend more time with our big girl." Her husband wordlessly offered Ella a polished apple from their luggage. "Try it, sweetie. They're honey sweet." Ella declined politely, watching snowflakes melt into teardrop streaks against the darkening window. The northbound train pulsed with suppressed excitement. Passengers cycled through with plans for reunions. Ella's empty stomach twisted in time with the tracks. 9 p.m. glowed on her phone, messages from Lily asking about her arrival, and separate inquiries from Mrs. Mitchell and Mom about her ETA. Her typing fingers froze when the woman jostled her arm, sending her phone clattering. The shrill ringtone startled everyone. Ella snatched up the device, heart hammering at the caller ID's unknown number. "Ella?" Jacob's voice unraveled her composure. Outside, station lights blazed as the intercom announced their final stop. The carriage erupted in cheers while silent tears tracked down Ella's face. This would be the second new year without Jacob's arms around her as fireworks painted the sky. The second year her whispered wishes for forever with him dissolved like winter breath against cold glass. It was loud. The train car was loud. The other end of the call was loud too. Voices chatting, babies wailing, gunshots, curses all blending into chaotic noise. Yet I heard that sigh with crystal clarity. Feather light. Yet it landed on my heart with the weight of the world. Then his final words came through. Stay safe always. Ella. The explosion ripped through the air before I could breathe. The line went dead. 3 seconds of deafening silence swallowed the world before reality crashed back. My phone clattered to the floor. I stood frozen like a broken wind-up toy, staring blankly at the festive commuters preparing for homecomings. Watching the destination counter tick closer. Seeing the New Year countdown flash crimson on the digital display. My legs moved before my brain did, staggering to the cramped restroom. Retching until bile burned my throat. Clawing at my neck as if I could purge the shattered organ pounding behind my ribs. I knew. Jacob Mitchell was gone. There never existed some fictional Lee Yen. Only my Jacob. The Jacob who carried sunlight in his smile for 17 years. Who swore to shield me from every storm. Who I'd begged any listening God to protect during countless sleepless nights. Now he'd become memory. Our last goodbye in that cave 5 years ago when he'd enrolled at the police academy that was truly final. I should have recognized the truth that first meeting. The day Sophia dragged me by the hair into that restroom. She didn't hit me. Leaning against stained tiles with an unlit cigarette. Her smudged eyeliner couldn't hide the exhaustion. When I unexpectedly embraced her, she bent into the hug like a collapsing star. Ella. Her voice cracked. I saw your photo in Jacob's wallet once. Don't come back here. He wouldn't want to see me. I knew that. I should have stayed in my lane. Lived quietly. Pretended I'd never met him. But that night, after he pulled his beanie down over my head, those words he'd said, "Take care of yourself," weren't gentle advice. They were goodbye. I'd been Jacob Mitchell's childhood companion for 17 years. One glance and he'd know what I needed. Same went for me, his tone. His gaze. The slightest flicker in his expression. I understood it all. If I didn't see him one last time, maybe he'd never get another chance. That's why I begged Sophia. Because it might have truly been the final glimpse. I got my wish. I obediently returned to campus. Obediently focused on my own life. Obediently pretended to forget I'd ever seen Jacob. But in the dead of night, staring at moonlight pooled on the floor, I'd beg God again and again, let Jacob live. Just let him live. However broken, however changed, I'd take him. I'd stay. Just let him breathe. God didn't listen. The square-jawed officer showed up days before Lunar New Year. He arrived in uniform, tracking slush from the streets where uncleared snow had turned to brown sludge. Red lanterns glowed above storefronts already adorned with festive banners. Kids in puffy jackets hurled snowballs. Their laughter sharpened the cold air. I stood there in a thrown-on coat. Hair tangled. Face blank. Ella, mind if I call you that? I nodded. He tried to smile. Failed. His voice roughened. I'm here to tell you, Jacob Mitchell. His lips kept moving. I stopped hearing. Yet I deciphered the shape of his lips. I knew. I'd always known. The wound in my heart hadn't even begun to heal before being torn open anew. Raw and bleeding. Snowflakes stung my eyes. The burning ache spreading through my sockets. Jacob used to say, "You cry easily. I should look out for you." But I never cry. Jacob never realized, I'm not some fragile thing. I didn't weep when I sprained my ankle hauling water bottles upstairs. Didn't shed tears when I fractured my leg junior year. Didn't break down when learning he'd gone undercover. Those tears he'd witnessed before? Only because I knew he'd wipe them away. Now there's no one left to do that. Jacob. I won't cry. But this blizzard, it's making my eyes burn something fierce. I stood beside Sophia as she knocked on the Mitchell's door. She cradled Jacob's old police uniform. "Mrs. Mitchell answered. Grocery bag of holiday candies slipping from her grip. The colorful sweets scattered like broken ornaments across the floor. Their clattering echo freezing the tentative festive warmth that had lingered in the house. "Margaret? What's wrong?" "Mr. Mitchell's voice carried from the kitchen. Spatula clattering beside the fallen candies. "Mrs. Mitchell pressed trembling fingers to her mouth. Gaze locked on the uniform. When she finally reached for it, her tears fell thick and heavy, darkening the navy fabric in uneven blotches. She wiped her cheeks roughly, meeting Sophia's eyes with fragile resolve. Our Jacob always strived to be the best. Tell me, did he, this time too? Sophia's burly frame shook, tears glinting on her weathered face. He did. Ma'am. The hardened officer crumpled like a child. Your son earned the highest honors. Changed countless lives. That's good. Her whispered words trembled. That's enough. The woman clutching her son's uniform nodded, red-rimmed eyes holding lifetimes of pride and grief. I always knew he would. Our Jacob has always been a good boy. On that New Year's Eve night, another heavy snow fell, blanketing so many things across the earth. When the countdown ended, another year began. Everyone was celebrating the arrival of the new year. But my love, he remains forever 24. He and this year became memories of the past, left behind together.